Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas. Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejados.
Because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alicia.
I'm Nathan.
And I'm Frank.
Welcome to episode 169 of Adventures and Mousecapades. This week, we're going to talk all about my newest acquisition, which is basically a screen that I can log into and see the wait times for any of my favorite rides anywhere. And it also will show fireworks, and it is a countdown clock, and it's just a nice little peek into Disney at home.
Because you couldn't do that on your phone.
No, we're going to put it on a wall.
Oh, boy. Can't wait.
Actually, no. Our guest this week is a familiar voice to many, a former Disney World cast member at MGM Studios. And yes, I said that right. #AlwaysMGM. Frank Cardillo is one half of the brother-sister podcasting powerhouse behind Dillo's Diz. Their show is a celebration of love for all things Disney, theme parks, movies, TV, and more, wrapped up in the warm embrace of storytelling, heartfelt conversations, tangents, and hashtags.
Well, Frank is seen by many to be a Disney expert. The oh-so-sad fact that he wasn't until very recently when he visited the OG, the happiest place on earth, the one and only Disneyland in California. As bi-coastal Disney files ourselves, we're excited to have Frank on to talk about his transgressions and redemption. So welcome, Frank.
Thank you both so much for having me, and especially at such a pivotal time in my Disney theme park experiences.
We are welcoming you into the fold. It is okay. It's a safe space here.
One of us,
And I see you are wearing the merch, and that is important.
I know.
Disneyland Resort.
There was so much merch that it was very hard, and I love a good long sleeve tee, so that was where I was at.
There are differences between Disneyland and Disney World. Lots of merch is not one of those differences.
But it's the font. It's the classic Disneyland.
Well, true.
Of
course.
Really, I needed something good that had the Disneyland font on it.
Yep.
Am I allowed to say font that many times in a row? Okay.
Why not? So
We'll let it slide.
Yeah. Well, at least it's not Comic Sans. That's all we could say. Well, before we get into all that, what's your Disney background? Was the world of the mouse a big deal for you and your family growing up?
Yeah, Disney was a big deal in our family. Mama and Papa Dillo, as we've referred to them on the podcast, they went to the 1964 World's Fair here in New York. So,
wow.
Which we didn't really realize what kind of impact that had on them until later.
Yeah.
And, I went for the first time in 81. My sister, who is the much younger sibling, Jen, she was born in 82. So then it was a couple of years after that. And once we both went, and in 84, 85, somewhere in there, then that became like our family vacation every year. And then it eventually expanded into twice a year. And that led all the way up to when I became a cast member in 1995. So
Amazing.
Then after that, it was like off to the races. It just became so big it just continued on. And now it's, to our kids, which is a different perspective for us altogether.
Yeah.
What led you to becoming a Disney World cast member?
Great question. And so I had moved to Orlando in part because I didn't want to go to college, right? So I went to college at a community college here on Long Island, and then I was like, oh, you're going to go to a 4-year school? And I'm like, the only place I'm comfortable going outside of here, it would be Orlando. And it happened very quickly. So I went to the University of Central Florida, and maybe 3 weeks after I moved down, there was an audition on campus for parade performers and character entertainment. And I got in, and when they lined you up, they were picking you for different parks, and just based on, and they picked me for #AlwaysMGM. And that was my park, and that was really pivotal too in terms of our trips, because when the studios opened in 1989, I was a teenager, and there's like, I like Disney, but you becoming a teenager, you don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But I went to the movies a lot, so Disney MGM Studios was such a big deal, and the live entertainment there was a huge impact on me in
Yeah.
going from baseball player to actor. and and so it was really, it just all everything hit just right to be able to be a cast member at MGM at the time. It was 6 years after the park opened. It was still fresh
Yeah.
and new. It
Yeah.
was great.
Yeah, I had the glory of being there in the summer of, well, not summer, the spring of '92, with my high school, and
Nice.
MGM was awesome. Like,
Yeah.
we got a picture with one of the Ewoks, because they had Ewoks walking around,
Yeah.
with one of the giant, like, 3-foot sombreros from Epcot. Yeah, we were that good, that group of kids. So
Nice.
it's
That's
fine.
great.
It's fine.
It was so good.
How long did you work for Big Mouse, and what roles did you have?
Well, I started in the fall of '95, and I did it pretty consistently for 2 years until I started getting more roles at UCF,
Hmm.
and so then my status shifted a little bit, and so I stayed kind of not exactly seasonal and not exactly part time through '99. And really, that was after I graduated in 1999, where then I defected for a little while and was at Universal Studios as a tour guide, and then in special events for a little while.
We'll beep that
But
out. It's fine.
yeah, just remove that.
Yeah.
It's okay. You defected.
Do like a
We're not-
sensor beep.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry. I didn't want to mention it. But yeah, so it was 4 years that I had a cast member ID there to get me into the parks whenever I wanted.
Nice.
Well, we can't put this off any longer. How have you never been to Disneyland until 2025?
Having never gone to Disneyland, I think is a very layered and perhaps a deep psychological exploration of my brain and my anxiety. I don't know all the things, but I honestly don't know. And my grandmother had visited my uncle. He lived in California in the '80s, and she went to Disneyland for like a day and brought back like the old souvenir pictorial, and there was so much in it. I was like, oh, this is cool. That's cool. The Matterhorn has been like my Moby Dick for for 40 years, and so I don't know, and I want to say it's basically comes down to these two things. One is going out there felt like then I would miss like a window to go back to Florida and visit. That's like, I feel like we don't like change too much, and we talk about that a lot. So that's part of it. But there's also the Frank side of it, that I wasn't into TV film, and I wasn't into like the idea of being an actor in California, and so I felt like the idea of going to California in my 20s, or like felt like, I don't know. I was combating like not doing that part of it too by visiting. Oh, let me look around and what do people do? I didn't want to do. I didn't want to dabble in that, and so I felt like then once I got into my 30s, I was like, oh, I'm never getting out there. and here I am, just turned 50 in the fall, and that was part. It was like, okay, I think it's time.
Yeah. It's safe now.
Yeah.
All right. So how long were you in Anaheim? Where did you stay? And was it just yourself? Did you have a bunch of people with you?
I was my wife and my daughter, who's 9, so also kind of like the perfect time for that. We did basically that 5-day stay in at Pixar Place. So
Okay.
it was 4 nights total, but we were Saturday we were there most of the day.
Right.
So we did an arrival day. We checked out the 3 resorts. We went around downtown Disney. Then we did 3 days park hopper. And that last Saturday, we did like a character breakfast and some
Yeah.
downtown Disney before heading to the airport. Yeah.
Okay, so first impressions. Where did you go first, and what did you think?
It was very funny because planning the trip and going, okay, what's it gonna be on that first park day? Like I was like, there's no way I'm not going to the original park on the
Yeah.
first day. I can't start in California Adventure. I can't do it. I have to go. And of course, the days lined up in a way that the early entry was in California Adventure the first day. So I was like, and in some ways that worked out because then there was just more people trying to get that extra half hour in the other
Right.
park, and so that made a big start to the day. And basically rope drops. We were at the very front of the park, right at 8 o'clock. And I
Yeah.
love that 8 a.m. to midnight. By the way,
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
the 8 a.m. is lovely, and we had the first day was kind of. I'm not a big planner, so and nobody in my family is
Mhm.
planners, but the one solid plan that I had was like, look, those first 2 hours, I would like, and my daughter's a big thrill seeker. It's like I'd like to do Indiana Jones, Thunder Mountain. So that's her favorite. Matterhorn. That's my Moby Dick, and Space Mountain. I said if we can knock out those four, and without a lightning lane, none of that. I don't bother. I'm the oldest of old schools, and if we can do that in the first 2 hours, then we can just kind of ease in to the
Mhm.
rest of the day and hit what we need to hit and
Mm-hmm.
and be happy about it.
Yeah. I love that. There's so many people like that are like, what is the one thing you like your biggest thing? And it's like for a recommendation. It's like
Right.
have a small list, prioritize those things, and everything else is pixie dust.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
folks who have these long lists are just dooming themselves to disappointment. Just go with the flow. So
And and you talk about Walt Disney World all the time with like you just can't do it all. You can't.
Right.
But you really got to lock in on what without the old school not the must-dos. You got to do the must-dos, but you got to have them and be okay with it. I went to 11 years ago. I went to Disneyland Paris just to the main park for the day, and I was like, if I could just hit one ride every hour, I'm
Mhm.
happy. And
Yeah.
that became like a thing as a Disney adult that I just grew accustomed to. Then in trips after that, I was like, that was a good plan for Paris. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
that's what I've been carrying on after, and I passed that on to my 9-year-old who also she's like, oh no, we're doing good because we've done 12 rides and we've been here for 9 hours. I was like, I know.
All right, so you had park hopper tickets. What did you think about switching parks in Disneyland versus Disney World?
It's lovely, right? The first
Yeah.
day I didn't in park hop at all because I was just like, I'm loving this park too
Yeah.
much. I don't
Yeah.
want to go anywhere else. So that was an all day, no park hopping there. On the second day, and now I'm thinking about it in real time. And it's funny that it worked out this way. The second day we went to California Adventure first because we were at Pixar Place, so we could just cross the street and do the thing. It was awesome.
Yep.
Love it. We went back to the resort, did a little pool time, and then went back over to Disneyland. But we had dinner at Carthay Circle, so that was the 1st
Mhm.
time we did the walk across the street, and you're at the
Yeah.
other park. What is this? And it's funny, right? Because I try to balance my. I don't want to I know things, but I don't want to spoil too much for myself. So I'm not going to deep dive, but I look at like maps and I look at Google Earth and I look
Right.
at and it still was like shocking of how close it was
Yes.
exiting the one park
Yes.
and entering the other one.
Yeah.
90-second walk.
So good,
don't
good.
You don't have to get a bus. You don't need a
No.
minivan. You don't need. Yeah. You just. Yeah. It's great.
It was one, and then when we did it, I was like, I can't get over this. It's just one of those things that like, oh, I'm like, this is a real perk.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, and really that whole area of downtown Disney, just walking that and knowing that that's the access, just how accessible it is really, really nice.
Yeah.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah. It's a little bubble, but it's still a bubble, and it's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, it's really well contained, and and it's funny over the years of obviously we always knew they always told you how many square miles Walt Disney World was,
Yeah.
but I never thought of it as so vast younger. Now I think of it as much more expansive than I did, even though the Village Marketplace in downtown Disney, Disney Springs, whatever, was definitely on one side, and Magic Kingdom is significantly far away from that, but
Yeah.
never thought of it that way when I was
Yeah.
young.
Let's focus on each park.
Mhm.
How was Disneyland overall? Did you get lost? Did you get turned around at all?
No, I think the big the big thing was just how close everything was, and
Yeah.
then you can realize how small it is and things like that. But I loved that level of intimacy to
Mm.
it. I thought it was really cool, and the idea. Yeah, I thought that, and maybe I'll save it. But the I just loved the Adventureland, Frontierland side of the park, and
Mhm.
just how that felt. And maybe it's because you knew that was what they really were working on hard first, or
Yeah.
whatever. But that was uh, that being that close from the hub to that, and being able to just like almost do laps, and
Yeah.
in no and not a lot of time, was really, really cool. And I loved Fantasyland, and just I marveled at the use of space,
Yeah.
because everyone tells you it's small, but then when you like in the afternoon, we were like, boom, Pinocchio, Snow White, Mr. Toad, and you go, how are these dark rides so close together?
Yes.
They're very, yeah.
Yeah, it's really, for a small park, it is amazing what they did with the level of space.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. A bunch of those are all in the same building.
which is also crazy,
Yes.
like that. Yeah, because again, went back to the Google Earth after and going, so this is, the
Yeah.
idea of that is wild.
So you didn't get lost at all? Like, our problem being bi-coastal
Yeah.
is that like our park map and our brain is kind of merged between the two, especially
Yeah.
with Magic Kingdom and Disneyland Park. And we'll like, oh, it's left. Oh no, that's a right turn. You didn't have any issues with that?
Tomorrowland was probably the hardest part
Yes.
to navigate for me, and I would say I didn't even the last night, I went back into the park solo on the last night I was there, and so I was like, well, I didn't really walk this part of Tomorrowland. It just didn't seem there was a good enough flow
Yeah.
in Tomorrowland, and so that was really my only hang up. But I will say, I don't know about lost, but there were definitely parts of the park where I was like, it took a day to get into Toontown. Like I was
Yeah.
like, that just, and It's a Small World is under the maintenance, under the
Oh,
reno
yeah.
right now, so it wasn't even incentive to go that way yet.
Yeah.
Right.
And we put off Galaxy's Edge until the last day, thinking, what? It's the same, so I
Yeah.
don't know. But when we went on Friday, it was an awesome couple of hours there. So that part of, like, once you hit Tiana's, it was kind of like, well, but we kept finding the little lanes and stuff. So sometimes all of a sudden we go, oh, look at this path.
Yeah.
Here's this path going. And you realize, oh, that was an easier path than what we did yesterday.
What were some of your highlights from the Disneyland Park rides? Like, we've talked about a few, and specifically, we'd love to hear your impressions of the offerings that are on both parks. So you've got, your Pirates and your Haunted Mansion, and Small World obviously was down. Like, what did you think of those?
This is the raging debate that I mentioned to Jen on our podcast, and where when I was there, I often was going, "Am I liking this better than the one in Florida?" And it started getting my brain in March Madness mode of like, "Oh, what would brackets look like, and how would we do that?" So I found myself, yeah, in that kind of comparison mode,
Yeah.
where the length of Pirates is so great. And I really loved how the intro of the opening moments of Space Mountain, I guess, for lack of a better term, felt similar to Guardians in some ways, Cosmic Rewind to me. So that was I just liked that lead in before the countdown. And like I said, my daughter's big on Thunder Mountain, so we did that 4 or 5 times over a couple of days. So I'm like, okay, the Walt Disney World shut down for a year. Let me see some of these effects, and let
Right.
me see some of these additions
Yeah.
next year, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How is Matterhorn? Like, you've put that up on a pedestal for so long. Is your back okay? Like,
Right, that was what everybody warned me. They're like,
Yes.
"Old man Frank, be careful, please. We need you to keep on podcasting." And I think because I Dilloed my expectations there, kept them a little low. That I was pleasantly surprised by how came off of it, and I loved it. Obviously, again, it's
Awesome.
I loved just the sound around it, and
Yeah.
I loved just how it still felt like 1984 when you went on the attraction, and
Yeah.
that was really cool. I will say, in terms of my back, the last night I was there, like I said, I went in after 10 o'clock into the park for the last hour and a half, 2 hours,
Mhm.
and so I went for the only night ride I went on there, and I was like, okay. In the dark, I don't know, maybe I was just not seeing as clear, but it hurt a little more that time.
I don't know. That ride makes me giggle uncontrollably. It's so great. It doesn't bother my back as much, but Nathan, I know you're not going to go on
No,
that
I'm not even
anytime
going to
soon.
attempt
Yeah.
fate.
That's it. It's over for Matterhorn and you.
I just,
No.
no, between my back and my knee, like I need it in a safe space.
I will say my knees, I don't know what it was about this trip that it's really the first time I noticed struggling getting out of ride vehicles. And I was like, uh-oh,
Mm.
this is not good.
Yeah.
And some of it I was like, no, this Jungle Cruise boat's been here a long time. It's because it's an older boat.
Exactly.
It's
It
not
has nothing to
because-
do with the fact that you're
No.
50 now. That's nothing.
No. And let me tell you that right up there with Matterhorn was Storybook Canal Boats.
Oh, yes.
Like, I loved that attraction so much,
Yes.
but it didn't feel good getting out of that.
No.
boat. I'm not gonna-
I remember walking by that the last time we were there, and we were like, "Oh, we should go do that again." And I looked at the boats. I was like, "Maybe not. Maybe not."
I was still recovering from knee replacement, I think, and we were like,
Yes.
maybe not,
Yeah.
maybe not.
Yeah, no. That's not a
So there's another ride that is not in Disney World, and that's the Indiana Jones ride. What did
Oh,
you
yeah.
think of that?
like that was it was hard to commit to that being the first attraction because the Matterhorn was on this pedestal for me. And it, probably up until a month before, I probably would have been like, no, Matterhorn first, Matterhorn first. That's it. But once I, again, started doing a little more research and paying attention to how often does Indiana Jones go down
Yeah.
and little things like that, I was like, can we just do that first so we can get it done? And
Yeah.
I know we did it. I loved it. We didn't do it more than once, which we did Space Mountain more than once, we did Matterhorn more than once, we did Thunder Mountain more than once. So I don't know why, and I can't pinpoint why that is, but
Yeah.
I loved it for what it was, and the Indiana Jones IP is fascinating to me. So
Yeah.
and how or if it will be incorporated into Animal Kingdom is something that I'm really curious about because that means you're really trying to do something about it for
Right.
another generation that will live beyond Harrison Ford. So
Right. I was just going to ask, like,
Yeah.
how does this, experiencing that ride for the first time, has it changed your opinion, your anticipation, your perspective on what's potentially coming to Animal Kingdom and what they've announced?
Well, I wanted to come to Animal Kingdom because, believe it or not, people think I'm an AK hater, but I want to do more in the Animal Kingdom during the day. So
Yeah.
I want it to be something I want to explore, and I want there to be a thrill ride, but I also wanted to be done right and with a level of detail and grow the world, I think, a little bit too.
Yeah.
Which that would be my concern is that they're not going to put the investment of those details into it. That's my only, that's where I sit with it. Where, with Galaxy's Edge, there's just so many variables of what
Right.
happened. It was
Yeah.
it was such a strange time
Yes.
for that area to debut in both parks, which I think is why we see some of the, additions and changes that are coming up. But with Indiana Jones, it's a similar thing, and I don't see them committing to it, especially after the fifth movie didn't do well.
Yeah.
I love the fifth movie, by the way. I'm just saying. I don't.
I need to watch it again.
It's better than the fourth.
We've seen it. Yeah, it is. Disneyland's food is known as being much better. What was your favorites in that park?
That is a great question because yes, it is better. And it's hard because especially if you're comparing Disneyland to Magic Kingdom, forget it. Like there's no comparison. I don't think. There, we ate at Bengal Barbecue the first day, and like
Mm.
just as like not a quick service literally, but just as all right, let's just do this, and really was surprised by that.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, we ate at Blue Bayou on our first night as our
Mhm.
dinner, and we were right on the water, so that's all we were looking for was the
Awesome.
atmosphere, and that was 50% of the experience, right? But the food was real good, and and I think comparatively, the second night we ate at Carthay Circle, and I the food was good, but I didn't find we were being walked through all the cool areas,
Mm.
Mhm.
but then we were in like in a room in the back, and I was like,
Yeah.
so that especially on the heels of the Blue Bayou experience, which I thought was really, really
Right.
awesome and something I really look for.
Yeah.
That that it didn't hit as well on
Yeah.
Carthay Circle, but yeah, I think just overall we ate at Trader Sam's too on our arrival day for dinner, and I mean, how can you not love Trader Sam's?
Yeah.
But yeah, in general, overall, I just thought the food was more digestible, and I don't know, maybe it was the lack of humidity that also
Mm.
made a
Yes.
lot of those meals. I was like, oh, I'm not sweating while I'm eating, so that
Yes.
also
Yes.
is helpful.
Well, and I think that impacts the quality of the food too.
Yeah.
In Florida, that
Yeah.
is because even like the churros, like in theory,
Mhm.
the churros are the same in both coasts, but we
Right.
all know they are not the same.
No, I'm not a big. I think the only churro I like in Florida is at Nomad.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and otherwise I don't like churros anywhere really. I think Nomad is the only churro I will
Uh-huh.
eat.
Yep.
And we had some in the queue of Thunder Mountain on our last day, and I was like, okay, here we
Yeah,
are.
exactly. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I can do
Yeah.
this. Yeah, it's not
Mhm.
bad.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else that really stood out to me. Yeah, because we just picked up stuff along the way. We had
Mhm.
to do a Dole Whip comparison that had
Yeah.
happened, so it was okay.
Heading across the Esplanade, what did you
Mhm.
think of California Adventure?
Here's my thought. I feel like I didn't get to spend enough time in the park to really enjoy
Mm.
it the way I could have, because I felt my appreciation for it growing
Yeah.
over the time spent. So really, was it? We bookended the day on the second day in California Adventure, and then really was just the end of the night, the last 2 hours or so at on our last day. Uh, to me, I feel like it's a work in progress, right? When
Mm.
how we talk about Epcot and how we talk about Hollywood Studios, hashtag always MGM. Sometimes I felt a little bit of that, and I don't know if it was just a flow thing, like the knowledge that I have of Avengers Campus is going to expand,
Mhm.
like. That's something I'm like, oh well, I can really see where that's going to be cool, and yeah, and I think that it was really hard to get the flow, and I'm not a carnival. I like carnivals. I like carnivals when they're out here on Long Island and I go to a carnival. I
Yeah.
don't need a carnival in a Disney park. So like
Mm.
the Pixar Pier area was kind of, as much as we did those rides,
Yeah.
it was not a Disney feel for me.
Right.
Incredicoaster was awesome.
Yeah.
Mm.
I really enjoyed Web Slingers. Really enjoyed Mission Breakout. And we didn't get to spend enough time in Cars Land. I think that's
Mm.
like the one big. Maybe I should have spent a little more time in here to enjoy it. And maybe that would have given
Yeah.
me a more enjoyment of the park overall.
Did you get a chance to take in Cars Land at night?
Not more than breezing by, and
Got
I
it.
think that's really
That's where,
yeah
pun intended, it really shines. It's
yeah
just stunning. The
yeah.
lighting and all the effects just absolutely pop at night with the lights. They've done such a good job there.
That
And
whole park
yeah.
is gorgeous at night.
Yeah.
Yeah, and several people told me that, and yet the timing just didn't work
Oh, yeah.
out for that, and and I was like, "Argh." But at the same time, thrill seeker 9-year-old that I have, it was like, no, we have to do an Incredicoaster ride at night, so
Yeah.
that was a must. So that superseded a Cars Land experience probably that was
Mm.
greater than.
Makes sense.
What were your favorite attractions at DCA?
Yeah, in going with the comparisons again, I was joking of what Mission Breakout? Would I put it up against
Yeah.
Tower of Terror, or would I put it up against Cosmic Rewind? Because
Oh, yeah.
of a full Guardians experience, I think what I really like what they've done with the IP is create a fully rounded experience in both parks,
Uh-huh.
and that this is what you keep needing to do. Indiana Jones, this is what you need to do. You need a fully
Yes.
rounded from beginning to end experience that feels like what it's like to go to those movies, and that's both of it. And with Web Slingers, like I love the Tom Holland intro. That was really, really fun.
Mhm.
And the attraction, I mean, who wouldn't want to try to shoot webs the whole time, of course. But to me, that's not like the full experience that you feel like you're in with the Guardians of the Galaxy and on both of those attractions. And so I guess Incredicoaster was great. It really just simple, the changes that they made. Not that I was on the original, but it doesn't feel like a lot yet. It's just enough to make it thematically awesome.
Yep.
And I thought that was really cool. So I'm gonna go Mission Breakout, but which is surprising me right now because as a family, I think we love Incredicoaster the
Yeah.
most.
No, you're allowed to have your own opinion, Dad.
The theme park, podcaster in me is going. It's probably Mission Breakout.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Well, I love, especially with Mission Breakout, they actually changed the physics of the ride a little bit too, to make it bouncier and go along with the music more. So it's a giddy feeling rather than a scary feeling.
My wife definitely liked Mission Breakout better than Tower of Terror. I think for that reason of like, what is even happening right now? Just bouncing like that for sure.
Of the two Guardians attractions, it's the one in California that doesn't make me want to hurl. So that's the one that I prefer as well. So
I just sing the song. That's the way I get through Cosmic Rewind. I gotta sing along. I gotta do it. Otherwise, I'm just thinking about I'm gonna die after this.
I am 0 for 2. I've never actually gotten sick, but I have gotten real close both times, and it's just not a feeling that I really want to, get close to again. So I don't know. We'll see. One of these days, Alicia will probably wear me down, but for now, I'm resisting.
It's all right. I can just go on with the kids instead. It's fine.
Fair enough. All right. So how about any food highlights from California Adventure?
We ate at Lamplight Lounge for lunch because I don't know what the days of the week are. So I was like, oh, it's not the brunch. Oh no, but it is what it is. But I thought the food was best there. And not that Carthay Circle wasn't a great meal. It's just sitting outdoors with the Incredicoaster as your backdrop, having a nice lunch is sometimes all you need. And so that was, and we ate at oh god, I'm not gonna remember the PIM lab on
PIM's Test Kitchen.
and we had the big taco salads, and I enjoyed that too.
They have good drinks there.
Yeah, they do. And that's what I thought was interesting about California. And again, I wanted to make sure I knew more about the original park than I did about California Adventure. Like that was but I liked that it had like an Epcot vibe and a Studios vibe, and like it had its own thing happening that I like. And I guess that speaks a little bit to and later in the day of it being a locals park, because it definitely when you go around Food and Wine on a Saturday, you got half of the locals there, and I felt like that was a similar thing.
Well, Disneyland and Disney World love to do things just a little bit differently from each other, from lightning lanes to PhotoPass and even the security screenings. Did you have any issues adapting?
And we just talked about this when I was in Florida over the weekend, that the security screening at Disneyland, because of it being, when you're at the Polynesian and you go through the screening, you're like, yay, I don't have to, but there's kind of that element of it. But I really liked just knowing once you entered downtown Disney, you didn't have to really worry about anything
Mhm.
again, and
Yeah.
that was nice, and it also felt like an old school thing, like, oh, this
Yeah.
is how I used to go to the Disney parks way back in the day, and so that was really great. Yeah, I think overall there were there was just nice touches in Disneyland. That again, I speak to that like intimacy, and I don't know if it's just it felt more localized or the training of the cast members felt more consistent across the board. I don't
Mm.
know what it was that there was, or just a California vibe. I don't know,
Yeah.
but there was definitely something about it that it brought more comfort, I think.
Mhm.
Mm.
You know, I talk about Disneyland Paris, and it did feel a little disjointed, but
Yeah.
that was also 10 years ago. Where here, it just felt very consistent,
Yeah.
and that is it all made sense. Whatever was different, it all made sense based on where they were and what the vibe was.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're a former cast member. You've been through traditions, which is, the class for folks who don't know that every new cast member goes through to kind of be indoctrinated in the Disney way of how you approach guests, and they're not customers, they're guests. And like there's a whole mindset. Did you were talking a little bit about this. Did you notice any differences to how that manifests itself in California versus what you're used to in Florida?
The amount of cast members, it's such a simple thing, right? But that say welcome in. Now, this is something that, Jen and I in the 7.5 years we're doing the podcast, we watch a lot of YouTubers. We've been on with YouTubers.
Yeah.
We pay attention to the chats and everyone says welcome in. I never really noticed that
Mm.
Mm.
until I was in Disneyland. I'm going, "Oh, is this why they do it?" But then I was in Walt
Ah,
Disney World over the weekend, and then I heard people doing it. I was like, "It's just not something I noticed ever." And like the glass
got it.
ceiling broke and
Yeah.
but in Disneyland, again, it was so consistent. In
Yeah.
a restaurant, in a shop, in a lobby, in a wherever. It was something you knew they were welcoming you in.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like and it might seem like, "Okay, we get it." But now that I heard it 3 times in Walt Disney World last
Yeah.
weekend, I'm like, "Oh, and they are doing it." It just wasn't as it wasn't clear, I
Yeah.
guess. And again, I think that speaks to what I saw in Disneyland of it just seemed like the training must be really, really consistent there,
Yeah.
and because maybe just so many name tags with the local,
Mm.
California cities
Right.
around Anaheim, um, and it just might again some more of that vibe.
Yeah. We've got some good friends who are former cast members as well. And one of the things that they always point out when you're comparing, experiences in California and experiences in Florida is that there's a volume difference. And it's not that there's an intentional different approach, but like there's just lots more people to train, lots more people to say hi to. Like it's just,
Yeah.
volume makes a difference, and
Yeah.
that it comes off. It's not better or worse. It's just different.
Mhm.
Just different. I mean, the way we plan our trips, sometimes we end up being in Florida around the time college program training is happening, and so
Hmm.
that's always I really like to take note of that when I'm walking around, just to see how that's going and how the college kids are reacting to what's happening around them.
Yeah.
So that and I do think it's you have the locals, the Floridians, and then you have college program, and then you have like at Epcot, you have people from all over the world. I
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah.
it is vast, and it's a numbers game, and
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of. Not a bad rap, but uh, about the guest service at is it up, is it down, is it less than it used to be, but the volume, the maintenance on that
Mm.
is
Yes.
significant at Walt Disney World, and
Yep.
you're still getting it there better than almost anywhere else in the
Oh,
world.
absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Frank, from your Disney World perspective, is there anything you would love to see Disneyland change?
No, I'm really curious about the Avengers can like that's piqued my interest of how that would do
Mm.
because uh I really loved I said liked, I was gonna say liked and then I said loved. I loved how Hollywood Studios esque the entrance of the park
Hmm.
and kind of that turn down towards Monsters Inc. and Mickey's Fellow Magic. I liked how that felt the same but different
Hmm.
Yeah.
compared to Hollywood studios. But I am curious to see how things might get swallowed up that way. Um, the Tomorrowland really stuck out to me because and when I did more research after I got home, it made me realize like, oh, they've just been struggling kind of for 70 years to get
Yeah.
this right, and I don't know. There's something about that astro orbiter right at the entranceway to that
Yeah.
I thought it was cool at first, and then I didn't like it by the time. Then it bothered me, and I don't know
Yeah.
why. I thought it was cool, and I was like, "Oh wow, that's right there," and I love how everything is right on top of each. But by the end, I was like, "That I don't know."
Yeah. And you're like, hey, that could still be a people mover. Hello.
Yeah. And, was Toontown was very interesting to me because obviously it seems they added Runaway Railway, so that gives it a significant
Hmm.
update.
Yes.
Obviously, I was going to go on that Roger Rabbit ride. I mean, that's like my childhood right there. How could I
Uh-huh.
not go on the Roger Rabbit ride? Uh, but but at the same time, the area was so kid friendly,
Hmm.
Yeah.
and it's always been such a interesting thing of Mickey's Birthday Land to Starland to Toontown Fair to expanded Fantasyland like that. I
Yeah.
still feel like they haven't found the sweet spot in either one of those areas.
Mm.
So
The Toontown or Toonland, Mickey's that in California
yeah,
has it's way better than it used to be when our
Yes.
kids were younger.
Yeah.
okay,
We've got a 20-year-old and a 13-year-old,
Mhm.
and the changes that they made, not only did they put in Runaway Railway, but they really rehabbed and refurbished a lot of that space, and like those parks and playgrounds that are there
Yeah.
now, that's all new, and they've done such a great job of making it much more inviting and welcoming, and I think a place where I think families go to hang out rather than let's go see Mickey's house, and maybe you get a visit with the main man, and then you're out to go do something else somewhere
Yeah.
else. So
Right.
I like what they've done.
Yeah.
Yeah, like my 9-year-old is such a thrill seeker, but at the same time, she just didn't mind running up and down that one hill for like 20 minutes. I was like, okay. So like that, and that's where I think it really uh, excels is
Yeah.
Yeah.
it is visually appealing and makes you just want to play, which I think is
Yep.
a good thing.
Yep.
And
Well-
Tomorrowland definitely needs work. I know we were really hoping to hear something about
Mhm.
at D23, like what was going to happen with Tomorrowland, because I know they've been meaning to revamp it or do something with it for a while, and nothing. We got all the new stuff that's coming over in California Adventure, but nothing about Tomorrowland. So we'll see.
It's interesting. I love the Autopia. Am I saying that right? I feel
Yes.
like I never say it right. But I'm like,
It's
Autopia,
Frank,
Autopia.
it's Autopia. That's
Autopia.
no.
Long Island me wants to go Autopia.
Autopia. Yeah.
Autopia. So yeah, it's just kind of I don't know. Yeah, the flow was weird, and I couldn't get past it.
Yep. All right. So opposite side of the coin, is there anything that Disneyland does that you'd love to see come to Florida? Other than the food.
I mean, I think that's a big. Well, can they bring Mr. Toad's Wild Ride back?
Yes.
What took the place? Didn't Winnie the Pooh take the place?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and I that's right in the middle of my cast member time there. So whenever people go crazy on the social media for any kind of change, including me, that I was like, hey, I was there for Mr. Toad's. It was crazy. Like when they and there was like an 8-day. It was like it was the end of August, and they were like, it's closing, and it's closing the first week of September, and it was like, what?
Oh my gosh.
It was pandemonium.
Pitchforks and everything else.
That's my old man get off the lawn monologue. Like, you weren't there when Mr. Toad's closed. But that I had so much joy going on that ride. in Disneyland, and I don't think there's necessarily things that I want to see in Walt Disney World. It was nice that Disneyland had Mr. Toad, had a submarine voyage with
Yep.
the Nemo attraction.
Mhm.
I liked that there was, as much as Mr. Toad is like an old attraction. Like that was great, but also the Nemo update to the submarine. I was like, this
Mhm.
is great too, and
Yeah.
that really stood out to me. I know that they could never expand like Pirates the way
Mm.
that it's expanded there, but
Yeah.
um, that's always. I think, I really like the French Quarter and just that layout. So
Hmm.
I still think there is. I'm blue skying right before your
Yeah.
very eyes. They're gonna open up that Pirates Lounge across from Pirates in the Magic Kingdom, but I still want to know what they're gonna do with that lane where Pecos Spills is outside.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like there's a French Quarter they can do right there
Hmm.
if they really wanted to, and
Yeah.
it would
Hmm.
connect to the Pirates feel to the if they really wanted to. So that maybe that's my thing is I like the French Quarter
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
out in Disneyland. Yeah,
It feels really awesome there.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a great
Did
location for it.
it is. It is. Did you see any characters walking around while you were there?
Uh,
'Cause that's one thing that I
yeah.
know Disneyland does quite well.
Well, and it's something I look out for as working in the character entertainment department as a cast member.
Mhm.
That's something, and what I honestly really loved. I'm gonna work backwards, I think, in my conversation here, but the last night I was in the park, Mickey and Minnie are just walking around the front of the
Yeah.
park.
Mhm.
Like, I'm like, and I got like a selfie with Minnie, and she was just walking around. I was like, "Hey, Minnie, you want to take a selfie?" Like, that is I could not understand, like, why aren't you all being mobbed right now? What's
Yeah.
Yeah.
happening? What's
Yeah.
going on? And that would never happen. It doesn't matter what time of day it is in Walt Disney World, they're getting mobbed.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
went through, I was there when it started experimenting with queues.
Mm.
There was so much we used to walk around, and little by little, more queues developed at Hollywood Studios. And so I'm always on the lookout for that. And so that was really cool. Like I said, we weren't going to go into Galaxy's Edge for very long, so we're like, all right, let's just go walk over there. I just want to see what it looks like. And once we walked in, Ahsoka Tano was right there,
Oh.
Hmm.
and my daughter is huge on Ahsoka. We
Yeah.
both watched the series together. Like
Mhm.
Ahsoka's such a big deal, so
Hmm.
that was like, wow, Ahsoka is right here, and
Yeah.
and and then the 50-year-old man is like, is that Boba Fett down there? And so right back to back right away, Ahsoka and Boba Fett really like. I was like, oh, now we're spending some time here. We're
Mhm.
spending
Yeah.
some time in Galaxy's Edge, and we saw Rey and we saw Chewbacca, and we saw stormtroopers, like all very, and not that you don't see stormtroopers walking around all the time. I saw Mando and Grogu the other day,
Right.
for the first time, and that was cool. But that was really impactful. Yeah, so I love it. And the other one, the last one is Avengers Campus. We didn't do any specific meet and greets, but
Mm.
just really love seeing those characters out and about. Captain
Yeah.
Marvel, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange. Loki was up by the plane at some
Mhm.
point.
Uh-huh.
So just those enhancements. Again, I'm a big live entertainment, Citizens of Hollywood
Mhm.
lover,
Yeah.
and so anytime you get
Yeah.
a lot, and that's my favorite part of the Disney cruise is the characters.
Yes.
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 That's the biggest part for me.
You get those kind of interactions on the cruise all the time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Not as much these days on the shorter ones. People
Yeah.
are really overloading with, oh, we have to get characters and have 45-minute waits for various things. But
Mhm.
especially on the smaller ships, like the opportunities to just hang out and have random things happen is incredible. The Alani Resort in Hawaii, same thing. We had like 7 minutes hanging out with Mickey Mouse because nobody else was around, and we're like, okay, let's do this. Like,
Yes.
it was amazing. It was amazing. We I don't necessarily have to put this in, but I'm interested. Who were you friends with in the characters department?
I spent a lot of time because of when I started. My two main characters I worked with very closely with all the
Yeah.
time were the genie. That was a lot of character breakfast stuff, and I started working. Like I think I was getting trained in the department the week Toy Story came out. So I
Oh.
worked with Woody a lot, and I worked
Mm.
with Woody in the Toy Story parade a lot. And that was again when that parade closed for the Hercules parade in mid '97. That's kind of that all happened at like again I was getting started to get roles in school, and so like it all
Yeah.
lined up of like, oh, I think this is my arc here.
Mm.
Is all the way to the end of the Toy Story parade. If I really look at it, that first year and a half of working in the park, when
Yeah.
it was literally Buzz and Woody weren't they weren't made they were toys. They were only supposed to be in the parade. They weren't supposed to
Ah.
do meet and greets, but because the popularity was what it was
Yeah.
from the jump, that they're like, oh, you gotta do meet and greets, and that was like Beatlemania.
Yeah.
Christmas Day 1995, they had Buzz and Woody for meet and greets across from Pizza Rizzo. I think it's even before that became before
Pizza
Pizza
Right.
Rizzo
Planet.
was
Yeah.
Pizza Planet. I don't even think it was Pizza Planet yet,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but they had Buzz and Woody there, and people would come around the corner from the Muppet Vision audience dump,
Uh-huh.
and it was madness. Christmas Day,
Oh, wow.
1995, like one of the most insane experiences I've ever been a part of.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Do you mind if we keep that in,
no,
or
you
do
can
you
keep that
want?
in there. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
cool,
yeah,
cool,
all
cool,
good.
cool. Kind of as we wrap this section up, anything we missed about Disneyland that's worth adding in?
No, the hotel, because it's relatively new, Pixar Place.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Really loved it. Really loved the artwork, the
Yes, it's so
decor.
pretty.
We had an awesome view of California Adventure on the
Nice.
11th floor. It was
Oh,
really
wow.
just really cool. Just to arrive and open up the curtain and be like, okay, and like lean and like, oh, Space Mountain and Matterhorn. Okay, great. So that was really impactful for the start of the trip.
Mm.
I will debate the next time I go of when we went over to Trader Sam's. I just really loved the Disneyland hotel, and
Mm.
Yeah.
so there was part of me that was like, oh, I want to stay here, but at the same time, it was a Pixar Place. It was a really nice place to stay, and again, easy and comfortable, and
Yeah.
and a good Disney bed, as we like to say on our podcast
Yeah.
sometimes.
Awesome.
Did you get to see Bing Bong?
We saw Bing Bong on our
Oh,
last
nice.
day.
Awesome.
Oh,
So yeah,
nice.
we had Doug on a meet and greet on the first day
Oh,
when
fun.
we arrived, and had Bing Bong on the last day, which was cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Bing Bong made me a little teary.
Yeah. If it was my sister, she would have bawled her eyes out.
All right. Well, now it's time for Alicia's patented Disney torture test. But
Oh.
you're a former cast member. You are a professional. You are a podcaster. You've got this. But, good luck.
I don't like pressure.
It's not that bad, I promise. It's just your Disney favorites from anything under Mickey's umbrella. So Disney, Pixar, Star Wars, Marvel. All right, you ready?
Yes.
Your favorite character.
I mean, see, my instinct was going to go Goofy. I'm going to stick with Goofy.
Okay.
Even though
That's fair.
Genie and Woody are just, whoa, and I'm not even going to count Star Wars characters right now. Come on.
Okay, fair enough.
Favorite movie.
Star Wars is I went to see Star Wars in the theater when it first came out. I was 2.5. It's my first memory. I can't
Oh,
deviate
wow.
from that overall. Yeah.
Your favorite ride.
I traditionally say Space Mountain is my favorite ride. Yes, I will stick to that.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, because of where you just went,
Mm,
Disney World or Disneyland?
that's not fair. Disney World, but I will say that as of now, hashtag always MGM is it's my home park. I work
Yeah.
at the park. I can't not say that's not my favorite park. Even when Muppet Vision closes in a couple of months, like I gotta still say it's my home park and it's my favorite. right now, I would say Disneyland, the original, is
Mhm.
my second favorite of the parks I
Oh,
have
wow.
visited. So I would put that, like, if we're just saying individual parks, I would put
No,
Disneyland second.
that's my next one.
Yeah. Mhm.
We're saying Disney World or Disneyland right now.
Fine, I'm gonna say Disney World.
Okay.
And I'll say this too, like that the weather was so great in California when we were there. I was like, oh man, this is a big
Mm.
advantage
Mhm.
over Walt
Yes.
Disney World.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And then when I was there over the weekend, that it was the perfect 70-degree weather day, sunshine, a light breeze. I was like, oh, Disney World heard me talking a lot about that California weather, trying to show me up.
Yes. Now the next one. Out of
Mhm.
all of the individual parks that you've been to,
Yeah.
which
Mhm.
one is your favorite?
Yeah, it's Hollywood Studio, and I was having this debate on the X Twitter. Not it wasn't a debate, but I made a reference because I was at Hollywood Studios for half a day, and someone's like, "Oh, are you saying that Hollywood Studios is a half day park now?" Because I say that about Animal Kingdom all the time, and I said, "No, it's the only one I will spend a 1-day park admission for."
Mm. Yep.
Mhm.
And I think that is, like Epcot at Food and Wine, or maybe I would, but definitively, and I was like, "Oh, maybe I don't feel that way after Muppet Vision closes," but no, it's Tower of Terror, it's Galaxy's Edge, it's
Yeah.
the old stuff that's still there just
Yep.
to enjoy and take in. And Toy Story Land, Toy Story Land is a little. I'm still waiting for those Slinky Dog lines to
Yeah.
reduce a little bit, but it doesn't happen.
No. Some shade would be great too.
They haven't figured that out in 6 years. It's
Oh
crazy.
my gosh. Yeah. Your favorite hotel or resort?
Uh, we grew up on the Polynesian when we were
Mm.
really young, and when the beach club opened, that was it came at the right time because then me as a teenager and my sister's 7 years younger, uh, she'll say 7.5, but 7 years younger, that we could walk to Epcot or take the Friendship to Studios, and that opened up all these different levels. So
Mhm.
where Beach Club kind of allowed us to explore Disney in a greater way, Polynesian is still
Mm.
something we can't afford, but it's still our favorite.
Have you been on Disney cruises?
Yeah, 2
Okay.
in recent
Different
years.
ships?
No, same ship, Fantasy. Yeah.
I will skip that question then.
We like to
Or-
do the same things over and over again in
Yeah.
our family. So
Your favorite Disney restaurant?
This is the torture part.
so here's the thing. A beach club resort, we're very big on beaches and cream. And
Ah.
it has been hard. It has been 5-6 years with this expansion. It's very, very challenging for us to accept this change. But the cheeseburgers are still really good, and I can't turn down a chocolate shake from there. And I would say it's probably still that over like an Ohana, or
Mm.
I don't think I have anything that new that I would say is more than if a beaches and cream reservation comes up, I'm going to beaches and cream.
All right.
Excellent.
Last one.
Mhm.
Favorite Disney snack?
It Mickey ice cream bar counts.
Sure.
Of
All right.
course.
Yeah, we'll go there.
All
Okay.
right. All right. Well, you survived. Good job.
Yeah, I did it.
All right. So you have a podcast called the Dillo's Diz. Can
Yeah.
you share a little bit about that and who came up with the name?
Sure. Well, I don't remember how the name came to be, right? So Cardillo is our family name. So my nickname was Dillo when I was like playing baseball and stuff. So we adapted that somehow, and I assume, I don't know if I've asked her specifically, that Jen, my sister, had a Dillo reference somewhere along the way. So we were like, let's do a blog. And this was way before the podcast. And
Yeah.
we write like one blog a year, and it went nowhere. And then I started dabbling into podcasting when I got out of producing theater in New York City. It was too expensive. And that I was like, let's just do this and just talk about how we're nostalgic we are and how we don't like change. And we can tell stories of when we worked there and when we were kids and what we're doing now, because now we have kids and we're going, and it all just kind of lined up that way. So, so the full time, we usually introduce our episodes with it is Theme Park Thursday. We drop every Thursday, so Theme Park Thursday with Dillo's Diz is like the full name of the podcast, but we're trying to just brand ourselves, I guess, as Dillo's Diz. So it's I haven't told Jen this. You're gonna get a scoop here. So
Okay.
and how my brain works on the plane ride home the other day from Florida, where I was like, well, the D is for Disney, and the I is for improv because I like improv a lot. And then the Z is actually an N for nostalgia turned on its side. So that's a scoop
love that.
for you guys.
I love that.
But we like to say that our podcast is like if I picked up a landline telephone and called my sister. Like, we like to treat the podcast like that. But we've had a lot of great guests over the years. I think you guys will be guests in the future. I can foresee the future. I'm
Shucks.
looking into my Madame Leota crystal ball, and I see that happening down the line. But we just have really continued to enjoy not only talking about
Yeah.
our time and across the board, but meeting everyone in the community and getting to know more people and sharing those stories
Yeah.
and talking about stuff.
I think our stories is very similar in that we love we these are conversations that we were going to have like with each other anyway. And Alicia just goes, we should just do a podcast and record this stuff.
Right.
And like, you are talking to two pretty deep introverts. And there is something about this avenue where we get to talk to interesting people. I mean, not you, Frank, but we just get to talk to all these amazing folks and get these new stories and perspectives on anything and everything. And it's, we just love it. It's fun. It pulls us out of our comfort zone and we really enjoy it. So
And I think it when people ask me about it or ask my sister and I about it, I think they are often surprised at when we talk about how positive it all has been. I think we've just been very lucky over the time to meet who we've met, to spend time with who we spend time with, to be on other podcasts like this and talk about things that we love. I mean, like, it's very hard. It's very hard to knock people down, but when it's this consistent, it really makes it all worthwhile.
yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Well, where can folks find you guys on their radio dial, as it were?
So every Thursday, like I said, Jen and I drop an episode, Theme Park Thursday with Dillo's Diz. You can just look up Dillo's Diz podcast. It'll come up in all your podcatchers. We do most social medias, some more than others, at Dillo's Diz. That Dillo's ends with an S. The Diz ends with the Z, like I said. And so we started when we really started connecting with a lot of people. That was over on the X Twitter there, and that's probably where we lean the most. But TikTok, Facebook, the blue sky, we're not paying that much attention to right now because I don't understand it. Threads, the whole thing. Instagram, YouTube. You can subscribe to our channel on YouTube. We throw a lot of stuff up there, just at random sometimes. We should be better about it, and we're not. We say that's like our New Year's resolution every year. And we have our website at dillosdiz.com. We have a Patreon connected to that at dillosdizresort.com.
Awesome. Well, Frank, thanks so much for coming on and chatting with us. It sounds like you had a fantastic trip, and thanks for sharing.
It really was. Thanks for reaching out and just saying hi and saying you wanted me to come on and join. And I'm really honored.
Well, thanks again to Frank. That was awesome to talk to him about his very first ever Disneyland trip.
I know. So much experience with the company, and that's his first time.
I know. Forgot to ask if he's going back.
I can't imagine he won't. He did say, he talked about trying to maybe go to Disneyland Hotel next time.
That's
so
true. That's true.
I think he'll be back.
Yeah. Well, remember, we are not affiliated with Disney or their subsidiaries. These are personal opinions and suggestions based on our own experiences. We recommend working with a travel agent or contacting Disney directly to plan your perfect vacation.
If you have questions or suggestions or would like to be interviewed on our show to share your Disney experience, please send an email to podcast@ourmousecapades.com.
You can follow us on socials. We are at Our Mousecapades. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, and YouTube.
Please do give us a rating and a review in your podcast app. That is the best way to help people find us.
Of course, do not hesitate to share us with your friends and fellow Disney lovers of all ages.
Maybe that's the best way. Anyway, thanks for listening. We'll be in your ears next week.
Thank you for flying Star Tours. Bye-bye.